The grand hall pulsed with life, a feast laid out with the king's ransom of roasted meats, glistening fruits, and flagons overflowing with honeyed mead. Torches blazed, casting long, dancing shadows across the assembled werewolf court, their flickering light reflecting off polished armor and the rich fabrics adorning the she-wolves. Yet, beneath the veneer of opulence, a palpable tension simmered. Whispers, like restless spirits, drifted through the throng, each hushed conversation laced with anticipation and a hint of anxiety. The selection ceremony was fast approaching, a ritual where the Alpha King would choose his Luna, his queen, the woman destined to stand by his side and rule the pack. Expectations were as rigid as the Iron Throne, each future Luna expected to embody a trifecta of beauty, grace, and unwavering obedience. Any deviation from this established norm was met with scorn, a fate many feared. Eyes darted, assessing, comparing, and judging the young she-wolves, all vying for the king's attention and the coveted title. Among them, one young she-wolf drew more than her fair share of glances, some filled with admiration, but most laced with derision and thinly veiled mockery. Her name was Alara, and she was different. Unlike the other she-wolves, who seemed sculpted from moonlight and shadows, slender and ethereal, Alara was built of earth and strength. She was taller, broader, her muscles honed from years of practical labor, not delicate dances. Her frame was robust, designed for endurance and power, not the fleeting beauty so prized in the royal court. While others possessed a fragile elegance, Alara exuded a raw, untamed energy. Her hands, calloused from tending to injured wolves and foraging in the forest, were far from the delicate ideal. Yet, within those hands resided a profound gift for healing, a skill that earned her the respect of some, even as it fueled the ridicule of others. Alara possessed a deep well of kindness, a genuine empathy that extended to every creature, great and small. She was respected for her knowledge of ancient remedies and the care she gave to the pack, but she always felt like an outsider. The expectations weighed heavily on her, a suffocating blanket of societal pressure. To be Luna meant embodying the ideals of beauty, grace, and obedience, qualities Alara felt were as foreign to her as the language of birds. Her reflection in the polished silver of a serving platter revealed a face that was strong, not delicate, a body that was powerful, not petite. Doubts gnawed at her, whispers of inadequacy echoing in her mind. How could she ever hope to meet the impossible standards set before her? The selection ceremony loomed, a terrifying prospect that filled her with dread. She knew the whispers followed her, the silent judgments that stung like nettles. Too big, they said. Too strong. Too different. As the feast continued, Alara felt a desperate plea rising within her, a silent prayer for understanding, for acceptance, for a world where her worth wasn't measured by her waistline or the grace of her movements. Would she be judged solely on her appearance, or would anyone see the strength and compassion that resided within her heart? She closed her eyes for a moment, wishing for a different fate. But what fate awaited her? Subscribe to find out what happens at the upcoming selection ceremony. Will Alara defy the pack's expectations or succumb to their cruel judgment? The answers are coming soon. 667 words. The grand hall, usually echoing with laughter and boisterous conversation, was now hushed, anticipation hanging heavy in the air like a thick fog. Banners depicting the royal crest, a snarling wolf rampant on a field of stars, adorned the walls, their vibrant colors failing to dispel the underlying tension. The selection ceremony had begun. Every member of the pack, from the youngest pups to the elders, was present, their eyes fixed on the raised platform where the Alpha King would soon make his appearance. The air crackled with unspoken expectations, dreams, and anxieties. This was not merely a social event, it was a pivotal moment for the pack, a decision that would shape their future. The weight of tradition pressed down on everyone, especially the she-wolves vying for the king's favor. And then, he appeared. Kale, the Alpha King, entered the hall, and a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. He was magnificent. Tall and powerfully built, with eyes the color of a stormy sea and hair as dark as midnight, he exuded an aura of command that was both awe-inspiring and slightly intimidating. His presence filled the hall, silencing the whispers and drawing all attention to him. He moved with a fluid grace that belied his immense strength, his gaze sweeping over the assembled she-wolves, assessing them with an unreadable expression. The first trials began swiftly. Agility was paramount, the ability to navigate treacherous terrain and outmaneuver opponents being crucial for a Luna, someone who would protect and defend the pack. The she-wolves were led to an obstacle course set up in the courtyard, a series of hurdles, tunnels, and climbing walls designed to test their physical prowess. Alara watched as the others gracefully leapt over the barriers, their movements fluid and effortless. When her turn came, she approached the course with determination, but her larger frame proved to be a disadvantage. She stumbled over a hurdle, her movements clumsy compared to the others. A wave of whispers washed over the crowd, the disappointment palpable. Next came the test of lore, a trial designed to assess their knowledge of pack history, traditions, and laws. Alara, despite her struggles with agility, excelled in this area. She had spent countless hours poring over ancient scrolls, absorbing the wisdom of her ancestors. When the questions were posed, she answered with confidence and accuracy, reciting forgotten tales and explaining complex legal precedents. However, her extensive knowledge was met with skepticism. Some dismissed it as being unfeminine, arguing that a Luna should be graceful and charming, not a scholar. The whispers intensified, now laced with mockery. Alara felt the sting of their judgment, her initial confidence wavering. The Alpha King watched Alara intently, his expression unreadable. There was a flicker of something in his eyes, a hint of curiosity perhaps, or maybe even recognition? It was impossible to tell. His gaze remained fixed on her as the ceremony progressed, a silent observer of her triumphs and her struggles. 668 words. The dancing trial began, and a hush fell over the assembly. Alara felt her stomach clench. This was it, the moment she dreaded most. Music, lilting and graceful, filled the air, and one by one, the she-wolves stepped forward, their movements fluid and elegant. They twirled and swayed, their bodies seemingly weightless as they moved in perfect harmony with the melody. Alara watched them, her heart sinking with each passing moment. She knew she couldn't compete with their effortless grace. Her own movements were always more practical than pretty, more focused on strength than style. When it was her turn, Alara hesitated. The music seemed to mock her, highlighting her clumsiness and lack of coordination. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, trying to remember the steps she had practiced, but her mind was a blank. Her feet felt heavy and awkward, and she stumbled as she tried to turn. The other she-wolves moved like water, but Alara felt like a boulder, struggling against the current. She tried to focus on the music, to let it guide her, but her body refused to cooperate. Her arms flailed, her feet tripped, and she felt a blush creeping up her neck. Every step was a struggle, every movement a reminder of her inadequacy. She knew she was failing, but she couldn't stop. She had to keep trying, even though she knew it was hopeless. Then it started. A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd, growing louder and more cruel with each misstep she made. Jeers and taunts echoed around her, each one a sharp sting to her already wounded pride. "Look at her, she moves like a bear," someone shouted. "More like a clumsy ox." Another voice chimed in. The laughter was relentless, a wave of mockery washing over her. Alara wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor and be swallowed by the earth. She felt her eyes stinging with tears, but she refused to let them fall. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. But the shame was overwhelming, a suffocating weight pressing down on her. Her face grew hot, and she could feel her pulse pounding in her ears. She knew she was a spectacle, a source of amusement for the pack. The humiliation was complete. This was more than just a trial, it was a public execution of her self-worth. Her body was shaking, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She wanted nothing more than to run away, to escape the judging eyes and the cruel laughter. The music, once lilting and graceful, now sounded like a dirge, a funeral march for her dreams. She felt utterly alone, abandoned in a sea of ridicule. She had always known she was different, but she had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. The pack's cruelty confirmed her worst fears. She was an outsider, an anomaly, unworthy of their respect, their love, their acceptance. She felt a profound sense of despair, a deep ache in her heart that seemed to grow with each passing second. But then, amidst the cruelty, a small act of kindness. A young she-wolf named Maya, whom Alara had often helped with her healing skills, offered her a small, almost imperceptible smile. It was a fleeting moment of support, a silent acknowledgement of her pain. It was a small gesture, but it was enough to give Alara a sliver of hope. It reminded her that not everyone was cruel, that there were still some who saw her worth. That small act of kindness was all Alara needed. It solidified her resolve. She had endured enough. She would not subject herself to any more of their torment. With a newfound determination, Alara made her decision. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and turned away from the dance floor. She was leaving the ceremony, leaving the pack, leaving behind the pain and humiliation. She would find her own path, her own purpose, even if it meant facing the world alone. She walked away, ignoring the jeers and the laughter, her heart filled with a mixture of sadness and defiance. She would not let their cruelty define her. 670 words. Alara fled. She didn't stop to think, didn't dare look back. The grand hall, with its chandeliers and judging eyes, receded behind her as she plunged into the embrace of the forest. The trees, ancient and gnarled, offered a stark contrast to the polished stone and gilded cages she'd just escaped. Darkness enveloped her, a comforting cloak against the harsh glare of the ceremony. Each rustle of leaves, each snap of a twig underfoot, amplified her fear, yet also fueled her desperate need for escape. The forest floor was uneven, treacherous. Roots snagged at her feet, branches clawed at her face. She stumbled, fell, and rose again, driven by a primal instinct to put as much distance as possible between herself and the pack. Tears streamed down her face, mingling with the sweat that plastered her hair to her forehead. She was a mess, a far cry from the elegant Luna they expected, and she didn't care. Deeper and deeper she ran, until the sounds of the ceremony faded into a distant echo. The air grew colder, biting at her exposed skin. The moon, a sliver of silver in the inky sky, offered little guidance. She was alone, truly alone, perhaps for the first time in her life. The pack had always been a part of her, a constant presence, even when their gazes stung like acid. Now, there was only the forest, and the gnawing emptiness within her. She leaned against a towering oak, its rough bark a small comfort against her trembling back. Her breath came in ragged gasps. The pain in her chest was more than physical, it was the ache of rejection, the sting of humiliation. Was she truly so unworthy? So different? The pack's judgment echoed in her mind, each cruel word a fresh wound. She questioned everything about herself, her strength, her kindness, even her very existence. The forest seemed to whisper her doubts back to her, amplifying her insecurities. She sank to the ground, burying her face in her hands. Was there any place for her in this world? Was she destined to always be an outsider, a misfit, a disappointment? The weight of these questions threatened to crush her. She longed for acceptance, for belonging, for someone to see beyond her size and appreciate the strength within. But hope felt like a distant memory, a flickering flame threatened by the winds of despair. She wanted to be seen, truly seen, for who she was, not for who the pack expected her to be. She yearned for a place where her strengths were celebrated, not ridiculed. A place where her kindness was valued, not dismissed. As the moon climbed higher, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees, Alara began to confront her deepest fears. She realized that running away wouldn't solve anything. She had to find a way to accept herself, regardless of what others thought. The journey would be long and difficult, but she knew she couldn't give up. She had to find her own worth, her own purpose, her own place in the world. Even as the cold seeped into her bones and the forest pressed in around her, a tiny spark of defiance flickered within her. She would not be defined by the pack's expectations. She would forge her own path, even if it meant walking it alone. She would show them, show herself, what she was truly capable of. Suddenly, a low growl shattered the silence. It was close, too close. Alara's head snapped up, her heart pounding in her chest. She wasn't alone. Something was out there, watching her from the shadows. The hair on the back of her neck prickled. Her senses sharpened, her body tensing, ready to fight or flee. The forest, which had moments ago offered solace, now felt menacing, filled with unseen dangers. A figure emerged from the darkness, tall and imposing, blocking her path. The Alpha King. Kale. 667 words. Kale's presence in the forest was a palpable thing, a weight in the air that both terrified and intrigued Alara. He wasn't merely standing there, he radiated power. It wasn't a malicious power, not precisely, but an undeniable force that seemed to hum beneath the surface of his skin, resonating in the very ground she stood on. The air crackled with unspoken energy, a silent testament to his status, to his very being as the Alpha King. Moonlight filtered through the dense canopy, catching on his dark hair and highlighting the sharp angles of his face. His eyes, usually a warm amber, seemed to glow with an inner fire, assessing her, judging her perhaps, but also something else? A flicker of understanding, a hint of something she couldn't quite decipher. It was unnerving, to be under such intense scrutiny, yet a strange comfort also bloomed within her, a fragile seedling of hope daring to push through the hard-packed soil of her despair. He stood between her and the path she intended to take, effectively barring her escape. Alara braced herself for the inevitable reprimand, the confirmation of her worthlessness that she had come to expect. But the words that came from his mouth were anything but. "Why did you leave?" His voice was a low rumble, a sound that resonated deep within her chest, not accusing, but genuinely curious. He didn't berate her for her lack of grace, her clumsiness, her failure to meet the pack's expectations. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, his gaze unwavering. He then questioned the very trials themselves. He spoke of their inherent flaws, their superficiality, their failure to truly capture the essence of what made a strong and capable Luna. He challenged the pack's long-held beliefs, their narrow-minded perspectives, the prejudiced lens through which they viewed the world. It was a shocking thing to hear, especially from the Alpha King himself, the very embodiment of pack law and tradition. He went on to say that he saw past her size, past her perceived lack of elegance. He claimed to see her strength, not the brute force kind, but the quiet, unwavering strength of her spirit. He spoke of her kindness, her compassion, her ability to heal not just wounds of the body, but also those of the heart. He said he recognized her inner beauty, a beauty that shone far brighter than any superficial grace. Alara, however, found herself struggling to believe him. The sting of the pack's mockery was still too fresh, the pain of their rejection too deeply ingrained. Could he truly see something in her that no one else could? Was it possible that he wasn't simply trying to manipulate her, to lure her back into a situation where she would only face further humiliation? Doubt gnawed at her, a relentless tide threatening to drown the fragile hope that had begun to bloom. She had been hurt too many times, her trust betrayed too often, to easily accept such a radical shift in perspective. And then, he extended an invitation. He asked her to return to the ceremony, not to compete, not to prove herself according to their flawed standards, but to show the pack her true worth. He wanted her to stand before them, not as a contestant, but as herself, unburdened by their expectations, radiating the strength and compassion that he claimed to see. He wanted her to challenge their prejudices, to shatter their preconceived notions, to force them to confront their own narrow-mindedness. 676 words. Alara hesitated, the forest floor a blur beneath her anxious feet. The weight of the pack's judgment, the sting of their mockery, still echoed in her mind. Each whispered insult, each cruel laugh, threatened to pull her back into the darkness of self-doubt. Turning back now, disappearing into the anonymity of the woods, felt like the easiest option. But then she remembered Cale's words, his unexpected kindness, the way he had seen something in her that no one else had. A flicker of hope, fragile but persistent, ignited within her. She weighed the risks. Returning to the ceremony meant facing further humiliation, potentially even more intense than before. The pack's prejudice wouldn't simply vanish overnight. They might resist Cale's intervention, cling to their outdated beliefs, and direct their animosity towards her with renewed vigor. Could she endure that? Did she have the strength to withstand another wave of scorn? But the alternative, running away, confirming their low expectations of her, felt even worse. It would mean surrendering to their judgment, accepting their definition of her worth. And deep down, Alara knew that she was more than just her size, more than their shallow perception of beauty. She possessed a strength of character, a compassion for others, that deserved to be recognized. Cale's words had given her a glimpse of that possibility, a chance to prove them wrong. Taking a deep breath, Alara made her decision. She would return to the ceremony, not to compete, not to seek their approval, but to stand alongside Cale and show them the true measure of her worth. She would not be defined by their limitations. She would define herself. With newfound resolve, Alara turned and walked back towards the clearing, Cale's imposing figure a reassuring presence by her side. As they approached the entrance to the ceremonial grounds, a hush fell over the pack. All eyes were on them. The air crackled with anticipation, uncertainty, and a hint of apprehension. Alara's entrance this time was markedly different. No longer did she slink in, head bowed, shoulders slumped with shame. Instead, she walked with her head held high, her back straight, her gaze unwavering. Cale's presence radiated confidence and authority, silencing any potential jeers before they could even form. The pack was stunned into silence, their expressions a mixture of confusion, curiosity, and perhaps even a touch of fear. They had expected her to flee, to disappear into the forest, to confirm their prejudices. They hadn't anticipated her return, especially not with the Alpha King at her side. Cale stepped forward, his voice resonating with power and conviction. He addressed the pack, his words carefully chosen to challenge their long-held beliefs. He stated that the trials they had conducted were flawed, that they focused on superficial qualities rather than the true measure of a Luna's worth. Agility, grace, and knowledge of pack lore were all valuable attributes, but they paled in comparison to strength of character, compassion, and unwavering loyalty. He declared that he sought a Luna who would stand by his side through thick and thin, who would heal the wounded, protect the vulnerable, and lead the pack with wisdom and empathy. These, he proclaimed, were the qualities that truly mattered. To that end, Cale announced, he was introducing a new challenge, one designed to reveal the true nature of each she-wolf's heart. A challenge that would play to Alara's strengths, allowing her to shine in a way that the previous trials had never allowed. The pack watched with bated breath, unsure of what to expect. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, the silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. 667 words. The new challenge involved an injured wolf, brought into the center of the gathering. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The other she-wolves, previously so eager to display their talents, now hesitated. Fear of infection, of the unknown nature of the wolf's wounds, kept them rooted to the spot. They glanced at each other, a silent conversation passing between them, each unwilling to be the first to risk themselves. The air grew thick with unease, the vibrant atmosphere of the selection ceremony replaced by a palpable tension. Some whispered concerns about the wolf's condition, others questioned the wisdom of bringing a potentially diseased animal into their midst. But Alara saw only a creature in pain. Her heart ached at the sight of the suffering animal, its whimpers echoing in the sudden silence. Without a moment's hesitation, she stepped forward, her movements purposeful and unafraid. She knelt beside the injured wolf, her large frame casting a shadow over it, but her presence was far from intimidating. It was calming, reassuring. She spoke softly to the wolf, her voice gentle and soothing, as if trying to communicate her intention to help. The wolf, initially wary, seemed to respond to her touch, its body relaxing slightly under her hand. Alara began her examination, her fingers probing gently but firmly, searching for the source of the injury. She displayed a knowledge of anatomy that surprised many onlookers. She quickly identified a deep gash on the wolf's leg, likely caused by a sharp rock or another animal. The wound was bleeding, but Alara remained calm and focused, her attention solely on the injured creature before her. She reached into a pouch she carried at her side, retrieving a collection of herbs and bandages. Her knowledge of herbal remedies was well known within the pack, but it was often dismissed as a hobby or an unnecessary skill for a she-wolf. Now, it was clear that her knowledge was far more valuable than they had ever imagined. She carefully cleaned the wound, removing any dirt or debris, her touch surprisingly gentle despite her size. She then applied a poultice of crushed herbs, their pungent aroma filling the air. The herbs were known for their healing properties, capable of reducing inflammation and preventing infection. Finally, she bandaged the wound securely, ensuring that it was protected from further damage. Throughout the entire process, she continued to speak softly to the wolf, reassuring it and soothing its pain. Her touch was confident and skilled, a testament to her years of experience in healing. She possessed an innate ability to soothe pain, a gift that few others in the pack possessed. The pack watched in awe, their mockery replaced by admiration and a dawning sense of respect. They saw not the clumsy, awkward she-wolf they had ridiculed, but a compassionate and skilled healer, someone with a genuine concern for the well-being of others. They were witnessing her strength, not physical strength, but the strength of her character, her unwavering empathy, and her dedication to helping those in need. Kale, standing at the edge of the crowd, observed Alara with pride and admiration. He had seen her potential from the beginning, her inner beauty hidden beneath a veneer of societal expectations. Now, the rest of the pack was finally seeing it too. He nodded slowly, a silent acknowledgement of her worth, a confirmation that he had made the right choice. Word count, 665. The healed wolf, now standing tall and free from pain, turned to face the assembled pack. Its eyes, once clouded with suffering, now shone with clarity and intelligence. It began to speak, its voice resonating with an unexpected authority. It revealed the truth: the injury had been a carefully crafted illusion, a test designed by Kale himself. The wolf explained that it was a trusted member of the royal guard, and its suffering had been feigned at the Alpha King's request. The purpose? To expose the shallowness and prejudice that festered within the pack, to reveal who possessed true compassion, and to highlight Alara's exceptional qualities. The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the rustling of leaves in the wind. The weight of their collective misjudgment hung heavy in the air. Kale stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the faces of his pack. His expression was stern, his voice resonating with power as he began to speak. He denounced their narrow-minded views, their obsession with superficial appearances, and their cruel treatment of Alara. He spoke of the importance of inner strength, of loyalty, and of compassion, qualities that he had found in abundance in Alara. He praised her selflessness, her unwavering dedication to healing, and her ability to see beyond the surface. He declared that these were the qualities he valued most in a Luna, in a leader, and in a partner. He emphasized that true strength lay not in physical prowess or outward beauty, but in the strength of one's heart and the depth of one's character. He challenged them to reevaluate their priorities and to embrace a more inclusive and compassionate worldview. Shame washed over the pack as they listened to Kale's words. They averted their gazes, unable to meet his piercing stare. The realization of their mistake was a bitter pill to swallow. They had been so quick to judge Alara based on her appearance, so blinded by their preconceived notions of what a Luna should be, that they had failed to see her true worth. The laughter and jeers from earlier now echoed in their minds, a painful reminder of their cruelty. They understood the depth of their error, the injustice they had inflicted upon a kind and deserving soul. The silence stretched, filled with remorse and regret. A subtle shift began to occur within the pack. Some members, particularly the younger ones, started to look at Alara with newfound respect. They recognized the courage it had taken for her to endure their ridicule and the compassion she had shown to the injured wolf. They began to question the values they had been taught, the rigid expectations that had shaped their perceptions. They saw, perhaps for the first time, that true strength and beauty came in many forms, and that Alara possessed qualities that were far more valuable than mere physical appearance. The seeds of acceptance had been sown, and a glimmer of hope emerged from the darkness of their prejudice. 667 words. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every member of the pack, from the youngest pups to the oldest elders, held their breath, anticipating the Alpha King's decision. The whispers had ceased, replaced by a silence so profound it amplified the frantic beating of Alara's heart. She stood frozen, disbelief warring with a fragile hope she dared not acknowledge. The humiliation she had endured earlier felt like a distant nightmare, yet the sting of the pack's mockery still lingered. Could it be possible? Could Kale truly choose her, the outcast, the one deemed unworthy by their rigid standards? Kale surveyed the assembled pack, his gaze sweeping across their faces. A hush fell over the crowd as he prepared to speak. He paused, his eyes meeting Alara's. In that instant, she saw a depth of understanding, a flicker of admiration, and an undeniable warmth that sent a tremor through her very being. He had seen past her physical form, past the pack's prejudices, and recognized the strength and compassion that resided within her. Kale's voice resonated with authority, yet it held a gentle tenderness as he broke the silence. He declared that he had already made his choice. His words hung in the air, electrifying the atmosphere. He spoke of qualities far more valuable than beauty or grace, qualities that defined a true Luna: strength, loyalty, and an unwavering compassion for all. He stated that he sought a partner who would stand by his side, not as a mere ornament, but as a pillar of support, a beacon of hope for the pack. He needed a Luna who possessed the courage to challenge injustice and the wisdom to guide their people with kindness and understanding. And then, he spoke her name. Alara, he proclaimed, his voice ringing with conviction. He chose Alara to be his Luna, not because she fit the mold of their narrow expectations, but because she shattered it. He chose her for her unwavering spirit, her healing touch, and her boundless capacity for love. He chose her because she was, in every sense of the word, perfect for him. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Disbelief, shock, and a dawning realization washed over their faces. Alara stood speechless, tears welling in her eyes. She had spent her life feeling like an outsider, ridiculed and rejected for her differences. Now, the Alpha King, the most powerful figure in their world, was declaring her his chosen mate, his Luna. Kale knelt before her, a gesture of profound respect and unwavering devotion. He extended his hand, his eyes locked on hers, offering her not just a title, but a partnership, a shared destiny. It was an invitation to step into a world she had never dared to dream of, a world where she was not judged for her size or her strength, but celebrated for her heart and her spirit. Alara, still reeling from the unexpected turn of events, hesitated for a fleeting moment. Doubts lingered, whispering insidious questions in her mind. Was this real? Was she truly worthy? Could she truly embrace this new role, this new life? But then, she looked into Kale's eyes and saw only sincerity, trust, and an unwavering belief in her. She saw a future where she could make a difference, where she could use her gifts to heal and protect her pack. With a deep breath, Alara placed her hand in Kale's, signifying her acceptance of the role of Luna. A wave of warmth washed over her, banishing the last vestiges of doubt and fear. She was no longer an outcast, but a leader, a partner, a queen. The pack watched in stunned silence as Alara and Kale stood together, their hands clasped, their destinies intertwined. The selection ceremony, once a source of humiliation and despair for Alara, had become a testament to her true worth, a symbol of hope for a future where acceptance and love reigned supreme. The whispers had finally been silenced, replaced by a quiet murmur of anticipation, a sense that something truly extraordinary had just begun. Word count, 667. The initial resistance to Kale's choice of Alara as Luna was palpable, a thick tension that hung heavy in the air. Not every member of the pack was ready to embrace a Luna who defied their narrow definitions of beauty and strength. Some whispered behind their hands, their eyes filled with skepticism and resentment. They questioned her ability to lead, to protect, to embody the grace and elegance they believed Aluna should possess. Old prejudices, deeply ingrained in their culture, were not easily erased by a single act of defiance. Some pack members, blinded by tradition, simply couldn't see past Alara's size, her build, which they deemed unfeminine and unsuitable for a queen. They clung to their preconceived notions, their hearts hardened by years of societal conditioning. But Alara was not one to be deterred by whispers and judgmental glances. She understood that true leadership was not about conforming to expectations, but about serving the pack with compassion and strength. She knew she had to earn their trust, one act of kindness at a time. Alara began to use her new position to make a tangible difference in the lives of the pack members. She focused on healing the sick, drawing upon her deep knowledge of herbs and her innate ability to soothe pain. She tended to the wounded, offering comfort and care without hesitation. She reached out to the vulnerable, providing support and guidance to those who felt lost or forgotten. She noticed the neglected pups, offering them extra care and attention. Beyond immediate care, she initiated programs aimed at fostering understanding and acceptance within the pack. She organized workshops to challenge old prejudices and promote tolerance. She shared stories of different packs, highlighting their unique strengths and cultural traditions. She championed the rights of the marginalized, giving a voice to those who had been silenced for too long. She encouraged open dialogue, creating a safe space for pack members to express their fears and concerns. Alara patiently and persistently chipped away at the walls of prejudice, demonstrating through her actions that true strength lay not in physical appearance, but in the kindness of one's heart and the unwavering commitment to the well-being of others. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, she began to win over the hearts of the remaining dissenters. They witnessed her compassion firsthand, they saw her dedication to the pack, and they realized that their initial judgments had been wrong. The shift was gradual, a slow thaw in the frozen landscape of their hearts, but it was undeniable. The pack began to embrace Alara as their Luna, recognizing her worth and appreciating her unique qualities. They saw beyond her physical appearance and recognized the strength of her spirit, the depth of her compassion, and the unwavering loyalty she held for her pack. They understood that she was not just Kale's mate, but a true leader in her own right. The pack started to become more unified and accepting under Alara's influence, old grievances fading as a sense of community flourished. Alara's influence spread through the pack, creating a new era of acceptance and understanding. She proved that true leadership is not about conforming to expectations, but about embracing individuality and fostering a sense of belonging for all. Her reign as Luna became a symbol of hope and progress, marking a new chapter in the pack's history. Word count, 667. Alara and Kale's relationship, now official and cemented before the entire pack, began in a way that felt both monumental and incredibly awkward. The weight of their positions, Luna and Alpha, pressed down on them, a tangible force in the air whenever they were together. They were leaders, royalty, figures of authority. But beneath the surface, they were also just two individuals trying to navigate a connection that had blossomed in the face of adversity and societal expectations. There were hesitant glances, stilted conversations, and a constant awareness of the eyes of the pack upon them. It was a delicate dance of duty and burgeoning affection, a careful exploration of uncharted territory. They started carving out time for each other amidst the demands of leadership. Simple things, like sharing meals in the royal hall, became opportunities to learn about each other outside of their roles. They spoke of pack matters, of course, the daily concerns and long-term strategies for their community. But they also delved into more personal topics. Kale spoke of his burdens as Alpha, the constant pressure to maintain order and protect his people. Alara shared her past experiences, her struggles with acceptance, and her deep-seated desire to heal and help others. Walks in the surrounding forest became another routine, a chance to escape the confines of the royal court and connect with nature, a shared love that they both held dear. The rustling leaves, the scent of pine, the quiet companionship, these moments allowed them to shed their titles and simply be themselves. As they spent more time together, the initial awkwardness began to dissipate, replaced by a growing affection and a comfortable camaraderie. Kale found himself drawn to Alara's unwavering kindness, her sharp intelligence, and her genuine concern for the well-being of the pack. He admired her strength, not just the physical kind, but the inner resilience that had allowed her to persevere despite the constant ridicule she had faced. Alara, in turn, discovered a gentle and compassionate side to Kale that was often hidden beneath his imposing exterior. She saw the weight of responsibility he carried and admired his dedication to his people. She appreciated his honesty, his willingness to challenge tradition, and his unwavering belief in her. Their conversations deepened, their laughter became more frequent, and their shared moments became increasingly precious. A shared understanding began to blossom between them, a silent language of glances and gestures. They anticipated each other's needs, supported each other's decisions, and offered comfort and encouragement during times of stress. They found solace in each other's presence, a sense of belonging that neither had truly experienced before. It was a connection built on mutual respect, admiration, and a growing love that transcended the expectations of their roles. The pack, too, began to notice the shift in their relationship, the subtle signs of affection that were becoming increasingly apparent. They witnessed the way Cale looked at Alara, the protective hand he placed on her back, the genuine smile that lit up his face whenever she was near. And they saw how Alara's presence had softened Cale, bringing a sense of warmth and humanity to his leadership. The seeds of love had been sown, and they were beginning to bloom, promising a future filled with hope, unity, and unwavering devotion. 667 words. The honeymoon period, if it could even be called that, was abruptly shattered. Whispers of discontent had always lingered on the fringes of Cale's territory, but now they coalesced into something far more substantial, a rival pack. This wasn't just a territorial squabble, it was a challenge to Cale's leadership, a blatant attempt to usurp his power. The Northwood Pack, led by the ruthless Alpha Gregor, was known for its unbridled aggression and a brutal disregard for the ancient laws that governed the werewolf world. They saw Cale's acceptance of Alara, his unconventional Luna, as a sign of weakness, an opportunity to seize control. Alara, despite her initial apprehension, refused to cower. She understood the gravity of the situation, the threat it posed to her pack, to her newfound home. She wouldn't let her presence be a catalyst for their downfall. Instead, she resolved to use her intelligence, her compassion, and her deep understanding of the land to protect them. While others sharpened their claws and practiced their fighting stances, Alara pored over maps of the territory, studying the terrain, identifying potential weaknesses in the rival pack's strategy. She spent countless hours in the ancient library, poring over tomes of forgotten lore, seeking any advantage she could find. Her strategy wasn't about brute force, it was about leveraging their strengths, exploiting the enemy's vulnerabilities. She knew the Northwood Pack relied heavily on their superior numbers and their relentless attacks. Alara recognized that direct confrontation would be a bloodbath, a battle they might not win. Instead, she proposed a series of strategic maneuvers, using the forest itself as a weapon. She suggested ambushes in the dense thickets, utilizing the natural terrain to slow down their advance, and cutting off their supply lines. She even devised a plan to lure them into the treacherous marshlands, where their superior numbers would become a liability. She also understood the importance of morale. She used her healing abilities to ensure every warrior was in peak physical condition, tending to every ache and injury. She spoke to each of them individually, offering words of encouragement, reminding them of what they were fighting for, their families, their homes, their way of life. She also worked tirelessly to prepare the pack's healers, bolstering their supplies and training them in advanced techniques to manage the inevitable injuries of war. Even Cale was astounded by her strategic mind, her calm demeanor in the face of such a daunting threat. The air crackled with tension as the Northwood Pack drew closer, their war cries echoing through the forest. The pack prepared for war, united under Cale's strength and Alara's strategic mind. This unity was something new, forged in the face of adversity. The pack recognized that their unconventional Luna was not a weakness, but a strength. Alara, standing beside Cale, her eyes blazing with determination, proved her courage and her unwavering loyalty to the pack. She might not have been the warrior they expected, but she was the leader they needed. 667 words. The clash between the packs was a maelstrom of fur and fury, a brutal dance of claws and teeth under the pale moonlight. The air crackled with raw power, the scent of blood mingling with the earthy aroma of the forest. Cale's pack, though smaller in number, fought with a ferocity born of loyalty and a desperate need to protect their home, their families, and their newfound sense of unity. Each wolf moved with a purpose, a coordinated effort fueled by adrenaline and the unwavering belief in their alpha king. The rival pack, driven by greed and a thirst for power, surged forward, their eyes burning with a malevolent hunger. Alara, though not physically engaged in the brutal combat, was the eye of the storm, a beacon of calm amidst the chaos. Positioned strategically on a small rise overlooking the battlefield, she directed the flow of resources and information. Her keen eyes scanned the fray, identifying wounded warriors and dispatching healers with swift efficiency. She relayed messages between the frontline fighters, ensuring that every member of the pack was aware of the enemy's movements and the evolving battle plan. Her voice, though soft, carried a strength that resonated across the battlefield, a calming reassurance amidst the cacophony of war. She became the mind of the pack. She had prepared for this moment, poring over maps of the territory, identifying choke points and defensible positions. She had studied the rival pack's tactics, anticipating their maneuvers and devising countermeasures. Her strategic mind, once dismissed as unfeminine, now proved to be the pack's greatest asset. She knew that victory wouldn't be achieved through brute force alone, but through careful planning and coordinated execution. She understood the terrain, the enemy, and most importantly, her own pack's strengths and weaknesses. Chaol, a whirlwind of muscle and rage, tore through the enemy ranks. His roar echoed through the forest as he unleashed his primal fury, his claws tearing through flesh and bone. He fought like a man possessed, driven by a fierce determination to protect his pack and his Luna. Each blow was precise and devastating, each movement a testament to his raw power and unwavering resolve. He was a force of nature, an unstoppable tide of righteous anger. Yet, even in the heat of battle, his eyes constantly sought out Alara, a silent acknowledgement of her strength and her unwavering support. He drew strength from her presence, knowing that she was the anchor that kept him grounded amidst the chaos. The battle raged on, the outcome hanging in the balance. The forest floor became a canvas of blood and mud, the air thick with the stench of death. But Alara never wavered, her resolve unwavering, her spirit unbroken. She saw the wounded, the dying, the fear in the eyes of her packmates, but she refused to succumb to despair. She knew that they could win, that they had to win, not just for themselves, but for the future of their pack, for the hope of a better tomorrow. She whispered words of encouragement, offered silent prayers, and radiated an aura of unwavering belief. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the tide began to turn. Chaol, fueled by Alara's unwavering support, managed to break through the enemy lines, scattering their ranks and sowing chaos in their midst. The rival pack, demoralized and outmaneuvered, began to falter, their initial aggression replaced by fear and desperation. They broke formation, their lines collapsing under the relentless assault of Chaol's pack. With a final, desperate surge, Chaol drove the remaining enemies from their territory, securing a hard-fought victory. Alara ran to Chaol and embraced him. She whispered in his ear, "I am so proud of you." The rival pack had been defeated. Word count, 668. The immediate aftermath of the brutal battle saw a flurry of activity. Wounded wolves, some whimpering softly, others howling in pain, were carefully carried back to the village. The air, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, now carried the metallic tang of blood. Alara, despite her exhaustion, moved swiftly among them, her hands stained crimson as she applied poultices and salves, whispering words of comfort and reassurance. The grim task of mourning the fallen began, a somber counterpoint to the relief that washed over the pack. Chaol stood watchful, his gaze sweeping over the scene, a silent acknowledgement of the cost of victory etched on his face. He knew that even in triumph, there was always loss, a truth that weighed heavily on any leader. The tension that had gripped the pack for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a cautious optimism. They had faced a formidable foe and emerged victorious, their bonds forged anew in the fires of conflict. The shared experience of the battle deepened the already strong connection between Alara and Chaol. They had faced death together, stared into the abyss, and emerged stronger, more united than ever. The trust that had been building steadily between them blossomed into a profound reliance. Chaol found himself seeking Alara's counsel more frequently, valuing her insightful observations and her unwavering commitment to the well-being of the pack. He started voicing his love to her openly, no longer hesitant to show his vulnerable side. He would seek her out after long days of ruling, finding solace in her quiet strength and unwavering belief in him. He expressed his gratitude for her strategic brilliance in battle, noting that her wisdom has saved many lives. Alara, in turn, found her own confidence soaring under Chaol's unwavering support. She had proven her worth, not through superficial trials, but through genuine acts of courage and compassion. The love between them became a palpable force, a beacon of hope for the entire pack. In short order, arrangements were made for a grand royal wedding, a celebration of Alara and Chaol's love, and a symbol of the pack's renewed unity. Preparations commenced immediately. Seamstresses worked tirelessly, crafting a gown for Alara that would reflect her inner radiance and strength. The village was adorned with flowers and banners. The air buzzed with excitement. The wedding would be a momentous occasion, a chance for the pack to put the past behind them and look forward to a brighter future, guided by the love and wisdom of their king and Luna. Invitations were sent to neighboring packs, signaling a new era of peace and cooperation. The pack rejoiced in Alara's happiness and Chaol's love. They saw in them a reflection of their own hopes and dreams. The wedding was not just a celebration of two individuals, but a celebration of the pack's resilience, their ability to overcome prejudice, and their commitment to building a more inclusive and compassionate society. They finally understood that true leadership wasn't about physical appearance or superficial qualities, but about inner strength, compassion, and the unwavering ability to inspire others. As the wedding day approached, the pack was filled with a sense of anticipation and joy, eager to witness the union of their beloved king and Luna, and to celebrate the dawn of a new era for their kingdom. Word count, 667. Alara and Kale ruled the pack together, ushering in an era of unprecedented peace, acceptance, and profound understanding. Their reign became synonymous with challenging deeply ingrained prejudices and championing equality for every member of their society, regardless of their background or perceived flaws. Their combined leadership fostered an environment where differences were celebrated, and individual worth was recognized above all else. Their legacy, etched in the very fabric of the kingdom, resonated through generations, a testament to their unwavering commitment to justice and compassion. Stories of their bravery and their dedication to their people became legendary, passed down through families as a source of inspiration and hope. Alara's journey, from being cruelly mocked for being too big to becoming a revered leader, transformed her into a potent symbol of strength, unwavering compassion, and authentic inner beauty. She embodied the idea that true worth lies not in conforming to superficial standards, but in embracing one's unique qualities and utilizing them to make a positive impact on the world. She tirelessly dedicated herself to teaching others to embrace their individuality, to recognize their inherent value, and to never allow the negativity of others to diminish their self-belief. She constantly reminded them that their differences were not weaknesses, but rather strengths that contributed to the richness and diversity of their community. She used her personal experiences to inspire countless others to overcome seemingly insurmountable adversity and to discover the incredible strength that resided within them. Alara actively worked to dismantle societal barriers that unfairly discriminated against those who didn't fit the mold, and she vehemently challenged conventional beauty standards that promoted unrealistic and unattainable ideals. Her efforts extended to creating educational programs designed to foster empathy and understanding, and to promote inclusivity in every aspect of pack life. She became an advocate for the marginalized and a champion for those who had been silenced, ensuring that everyone had a voice and an opportunity to thrive. The kingdom flourished under her guidance, becoming a beacon of hope for other societies struggling with prejudice and inequality. Alara's impact extended far beyond her own pack, inspiring leaders and communities worldwide to strive for a more just and equitable world. The story of Alara serves as a powerful and enduring reminder that true beauty resides not in physical appearance, but in the depths of one's character and the strength of one's spirit. It is a timeless tale that underscores the transformative power of love, highlighting its ability to conquer all obstacles and to heal even the deepest wounds. It is a narrative that champions the courage to defy societal expectations, to embrace individuality with pride, and to discover profound strength in the face of adversity. It is a story that will continue to resonate with audiences for generations to come, inspiring them to challenge their own biases and to strive for a world where everyone is valued and respected for who they are. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like Alara's. Click on the suggested video to discover another captivating tale of love, unwavering courage, and the triumph of the human spirit over societal constraints. Thank you for watching, and we hope you'll join us again soon for more stories that celebrate the power of hope, resilience, and the beauty of human connection. 670